George, is not going to happen is water. Water is very hard for us. Not just because it is very hard, period, but because we have a style on our show. So we can't just take a computer and water effect and put it in the show. If you look closely in season 1, when we pour liquids in the show, that's like a standard simulation that was done. And I think it jumps right out at you. You go, oh, that's a simulation of water. It looks fake. So now that I had Joel, and among many things that he worked on The Perfect Storm. There was a lot of water in that. So I thought water would be good. And George thought water would be great and said, let's go to Camino. We can't really get a planet with more water than that. But when George finds out we think we can't do something, it usually inspires him to ask us to do directly just that. So we ended up on a water planet, and at the commissary at Skywalker Ranch, there's this painting, I think it's by N.C. Wyatt, of a canoe going through the rapids. And Joel and I would go down and look at this painting, and I would say, this is how we have to think about water. We have to think about water how a painter would render it somehow. Not how we would simulate it, not what the properties of it are, because the humans in the Clone Wars are exaggerated, they're stylized. The environment's not so much. But water, because of its physical property and that it moves, it had to somehow live more with the moving characters. And that was an important thing.
Yeah, and along with, going to Camino, everyone remembers Camino from, the Attack of the Clones, and it's always storming, and I think that was easy. And having worked on Perfect Storm, we got really good at doing storm water. And so that's why it just, what are we going to do with Camino? Use the storm water. Yeah. Really good to use the clone water. And so knowing we were going to Camino, we didn't really have to have the storm water. So we developed a way to adapt to our painterly style. And it's kind of like how you'll see fire, the look of fire evolve over the show, because that's really a challenge. Having, like Dave said, having worked at ILM, it's like everything must be photoreal. And it was a real learning curve to actually bend the knowledge of photoreal into being something that's drawn or look like it's stop in our frame, looks like it's painted. So we had to do the same thing with water. So keep an eye on fire and keep an eye on water on this.
What I think is clever about that is that in terms of the CG solutions that you're able to figure out for your show, for Clone Wars, it's so different than what you would normally hear marched about CG animation, because you guys have so many constraints on you, right? When there's CG animated film or special effects film comes out, you'll hear stories about, oh, it had so many million polygons, the creature had so many million pieces of hair on it, and you guys, with the constraints that you have to figure it out. You have to innovate, which I think is
an example. And I watched Wall-E with Andrew Stanton up at the ranch, and I told him I think there were more assets, which is anything built for the movie, in Wall-E's little shack than there were in the entire season 1 of Clone Wars. I mean, that's how dense a feature film is compared to a television show. But we have had, and we tasked ourselves with making it not seem like that's the case. And I think that's the leap you start to see in season 2 and season 3. Another big step, what I'll point out, what you're looking at here, these are actual concept drawings that were done for Attack the Clones. As soon as we're going to go to an environment that we know from one of the films, we start digging through the archives and start pulling things out. Not just what you guys have seen, but a lot of hallways and areas of this place that you haven't seen, because now we're going to go there in great detail. Where do all these clones sleep? What's their basic training like? What kind of armor do they wear when they're training? These were all questions that George had and that we had to answer. We went into his archive and sat there and went through all these drawings with him. We started picking things out. The next drawing is, this is actually from the Clone Wars now, as we've hybrided. This is what the barracks would look like or will look like, in season 3 of the Clone Wars. So you can talk a little about that design. It's very 2001 also.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was cool because we knew that we were going to see parts of Camino that weren't in any of the movies at all. So we got to pull stuff from the archives, and then we got to sort of put a spin on it too. And this particular design was done by Pat Presley, who was actually somewhere in the room because I saw him come in. Yeah, we'll do this all the time, where we'll get designs and sort of finesse them, or we'll rework them slightly so that they work for what the story of the actual episode calls for. So there's a lot of really sort of interesting fun scenes and very different types of scenes that actually take place at the set.